I work as a commercial airline pilot, flying domestic and short-haul international routes right out of Sydney. I grew up in a dusty farming town out in western New South Wales, where the only real entertainment was looking up at the planes cutting through the clouds high above. My old man worked on a tractor from dawn till dusk, desperately trying to feed us through years of brutal droughts, while my mum picked up night shifts at a local roadhouse. From a very young age, I understood exactly what hard, bone-breaking physical labour was, and just how hard it is to earn a single honest dollar. But every time I looked at those silver wings soaring in the sky, I dreamed of doing whatever it took to break out of that exhausting, crushing poverty. Becoming a pilot in Australia is an incredibly expensive endeavour, one that seemed absolutely impossible for a kid from a working-class family. To pay my way through flight school, I spent years doing hard yakka as a baggage handler at the airport, breaking my back on the carousels and picking up extra graveyard shifts at local servos. I denied myself absolutely everything, wearing the exact same threadbare jeans and living off cheap baked beans, just to save up for one extra hour of flight training. When I finally put on my uniform with the gold captain's epaulets for the very first time, my old man bawled his eyes out, gripping my shoulders tight with his rough, calloused hands. Those genuine tears from my dad were the ultimate reward for all the absolute hell I had to crawl through to reach my goal. I made a firm promise to myself that my future family would never know what it feels like to count pennies before payday or live in fear of tomorrow. To me, the cockpit wasn't just a workspace. It was the ultimate symbol that sheer stubbornness and honesty could smash through any barrier. But the flip side of my beautiful profession was the constant, gnawing loneliness of empty, soulless hotel rooms across the country. I desperately needed to know that somewhere down on the ground there was a warm, cozy home where someone truly loved me and was waiting for me. When I met Mia, it felt like I had finally found that quiet, reliable safe harbor I'd been searching for all my life. She was so vibrant, lively, and domesticated that just being near her made all my anxieties and work fatigue instantly evaporate. I was ready to throw the entire world at her feet, just to compensate for my frequent absences due to my erratic flight rosters. In my straightforward, traditional mindset, love meant creating absolute financial and emotional comfort for my woman. I took on extra long-haul flights so she would never have to deny herself anything and could live like an absolute queen. Every time I flew back from a trip, I'd rush home with my heart skipping a beat, just dying to hug her and smell her hair. I honestly believed our marriage was that unbreakable fortress I had dreamed of ever since I was a broke farm kid. I trusted her implicitly, never entertaining even the slightest thought that some cynical, dirty betrayal could be happening behind my back. To me, infidelity was entirely out of the realm of possibility, because I gave this woman every single piece of myself without holding anything back. I viewed our life as the perfect partnership, where we both honestly contributed to our shared happiness. My love was blind, deep, and entirely selfless, the way it often is for blokes who have fought too long and too hard for their success. And it was exactly this sacred, unshakable confidence in her loyalty that made the impending blow so devastating and incredibly painful. My wife Mia absolutely loved my status, my massive paycheck, and of course, the unlimited perks of flying business class to luxury resorts for free. Recently, she suddenly got super into fitness and running, declaring she wanted to get in perfect shape for the upcoming summer. To support her enthusiasm, I bought her a top-of-the-line fitness smartwatch for our anniversary and personally synced it to our family iCloud account to help her set it up. I was genuinely thrilled about her healthy new hobby and completely certain that we had the perfect, trust-filled marriage that could easily withstand my long days away from home. During one of my 3-day flying rosters, I got grounded in a hotel interstate due to a sudden cancellation of flights from wild weather. A massive storm was raging outside, and as I sat in that empty hotel room, I was missing my wife like crazy. In the morning, I opened the health app on my iPhone to check my own sleep cycles and accidentally saw Mia's synced data pop up on the dashboard. I just wanted to make sure she was resting well while I was thousands of kilometers away from home. But the graph showed something incredibly bizarre. Last night, at exactly 2 a.m., her heart rate suddenly spiked to 150 beats per minute and stayed at that intense, elevated level for almost 40 minutes. That kind of metric is typical for a heavy CrossFit session or an intense cardio workout, but definitely not for a deep, peaceful night's sleep. I immediately dialed her number, wanting to hear her voice and just make sure she wasn't having some kind of medical emergency. "Morning, my captain. I missed you so much." Her sweet, sleepy voice echoed through the phone's speaker. "Morning, sweetheart. How did you sleep without me? Feeling all right?" I asked, with genuine care. "Slept like an absolute log from 9 p.m. Didn't even have a single dream. Why do you ask?" she chirped back effortlessly. "Oh, I just happened to glance at your data in the family app, and your heart rate was through the roof last night, like you were running a marathon," I chuckled, still completely oblivious to the worst-case scenario. A short, incredibly tense pause hung on the other end of the line, which instantly struck me as highly unnatural. "Oh, babe, these smart gadgets are always glitching." Mia laughed nervously, her voice pitching up slightly. "I actually took the watch off last night and left it sitting on the bedside table. The sensor must have just completely bugged out." She quickly scrambled for an excuse. "You're such a caring worrier. I absolutely love that about you," she added in a velvety, manipulative tone, trying to smooth the whole thing over. "All right, doll, as long as you're okay. Love you, I'll be home soon," I replied and ended the call. But her hasty words about the bedside table and a system glitch didn't sit right with me, because I knew exactly how flawlessly these premium trackers operated. They don't read a pulse from a piece of timber or thin air. They only work when they have tight, direct contact with human skin and a pulsing vein. A burning worm of doubt began eating away at my mind, forcing me to look for a logical explanation to this technical paradox. Smelling a rat because of her blatant lie, I opened the hidden GPS map attached to her late-night workout, which automatically backed up to the cloud. I fully expected to see a jogging route around our suburb, figuring maybe she had insomnia, went for a run, and hid it from me because I'm so overprotective. My fingers turned to ice when the red line on the digital map traced her exact midnight route. I saw that the watch had recorded this intense physical activity not in our master bedroom, but perfectly pinpointed at the house of my mate and tennis partner, who lived just 3 streets over from us. This was the exact same bloke who was sinking my beers in our backyard last weekend, patting me on the back and telling me how lucky I was to have such a stunning wife. A sickening, repulsive image of exactly what they were doing for 40 minutes, with a heart rate of 150 BPM flashed violently in my imagination. My throat went bone dry, and a suffocating lump of nausea hit my stomach as the sheer magnitude of her two-faced betrayal sank in. "Sensor glitch, huh?" I whispered hollowly in the empty hotel room, feeling something incredibly important inside me snap with a deafening crack. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, staring blankly at my smartphone screen, physically feeling my wife's lies wrapping around my neck like a venomous snake. My cozy, perfect little world had just been brutally and cynically obliterated by a standard fitness tracker, the very same one I had lovingly bought for her. Instead of calling her in a blind rage and screaming for immediate explanations, I forced myself to maintain an ice-cold composure, waited for my return flight, and headed home, acting as if absolutely nothing was wrong. For the entire flight back to Sydney, I felt like I was piloting a jet straight into the eye of a destructive Category 5 cyclone. Fully aware, I couldn't show a single ounce of fear. My hands, so used to confidently gripping the yoke of a multi-ton airliner, betrayed me and trembled as I slid the key into the lock of our front door. Stepping over the threshold, I heard her joyful squeal, and she threw her arms around my neck, hugging me with such fake, sickening sincerity that I almost threw up on the spot. I caught a faint whiff of a foreign cologne in her hair, that distinct woody aftershave that my mate from the tennis club always bathed himself in. It took every single drop of my masculine restraint and ironclad pilot's discipline not to shove her away and scream the filthy truth right in her face in the hallway. I pretended to be absolutely wrecked from the rough flight, And while Mia was happily splashing away in the shower, I sneakily pulled the SD card from her car's dashcam, which she had assumed was broken for months. The sound of the running water in the bathroom became a ticking timer, counting down the seconds to the moment of truth. I crept into the dark garage, feeling like an absolute thief in my own home, and climbed into the cabin of her car with my heart hammering against my ribs. Pulling out the tiny memory card, I gripped it between my fingers so tightly it felt like a live grenade with the pin pulled, ready to blow my life to pieces. Sneaking back into my study, I threw the deadbolt, slotted the USB drive into my laptop, and put on my noise-cancelling headphones, mentally preparing myself for the hardest hit of my life. On the recordings, it was crystal clear, her car pulling smoothly into my mate's brightly lit driveway at exactly 1 a.m., and then pulling back out just before dawn. But the absolute worst part wasn't the video. It was the audio track that mercilessly recorded every single sound inside the cabin on her drive home. Flowing straight into my brain through the headphones was her sultry, satisfied laughter, mixed with the sleazy graphic jokes of my so-called friend on speakerphone. He was bragging about his stamina, and my wife, the woman I had broken my back for over the years, was eagerly agreeing with him, referring to me as her boring, constantly absent flying ATM. They openly laughed about how smoothly they had played me last weekend, when I was busy flipping steaks on the barbie for them while they were secretly making eyes at each other right behind my back. Every single one of her giggles stabbed into my chest like a red-hot blade, incinerating every last drop of affection I had ever felt for her. I was hit by such a suffocating wave of pure physical agony that I ripped the headphones off and collapsed back into my chair, gasping for air. A blinding, white-hot fury pounded in my temples, urging me to march into the bathroom, drag her out of the shower, and force her to listen to this absolute filth right alongside me. I desperately wanted to believe that this was all just a horrible nightmare, but the cold, brutal reality was staring right back at me from the monitor. My holy, untouchable faith in our perfect marriage turned out to be nothing more than a convenient, comfortable screen for two completely unprincipled, lying parasites. However, the tears of betrayal dried up incredibly fast, leaving behind nothing but an ice-cold, terrifying emptiness in my soul. I realized that screaming, shouting, and smashing plates wouldn't give me the absolute satisfying closure my trampled pride demanded. My profession had trained me to handle any emergency situation with maximum composure and zero panic, and I decided to apply that exact skill to my own personal disaster. I cold-bloodedly copied all those filthy files onto a secure external drive, printed out the damning heart rate graphs from the smart home app, and immediately contacted my family solicitor. I methodically sorted the video files into folders, building an impenetrable, bulletproof case of her blatant infidelity. The color-coded graphs showing her peak cardiovascular load went right into the same file as the high-def audio of her moaning over the car's Bluetooth. When I called my lawyer, my voice was as flat and dry as if I were reading out a standard pre-flight checklist. The solicitor was absolutely blown away by my composure and the sheer volume of digital evidence I had managed to gather in just a couple of hours. I gave strict, clear instructions to draft the divorce papers in a way that ensured she wouldn't get a single cent more than legally required, permanently cutting off her access to my credit cards and corporate travel perks. Stepping out of the study, I smiled warmly at my wife as she walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a fluffy towel. She was happily chirping about her plans for the weekend, completely unaware that her personal business class flight was already in a vertical nosedive toward the ground. I looked at this beautiful but entirely hollow woman, eagerly anticipating the exact moment her perfect little world would shatter into a million pieces right in front of her lover's eyes. The perfect stage for my crushing, absolute payback was set on a Friday night, when I invited that exact same mate and his completely clueless wife over to our place for dinner. For the entire evening, I masterfully played the role of the welcoming host, pouring them expensive Shiraz and listening to their fake, hypocritical compliments about our beautiful home. My so-called mate sat directly across from me, smirking arrogantly and chatting away without a shred of shame about masculine solidarity and our upcoming tennis matches. Mia floated around the dining table in an elegant cocktail dress, playing the role of the perfect, devoted wife, occasionally shooting him secret, knowing glances when she thought I wasn't looking. As we sat around the living room sipping our premium wine, the conversation naturally drifted towards sports and fitness. With a wide smile, I offered to show our guests just how brilliantly Mia's new top-tier smartwatch was working by casting my phone screen directly to the massive living room TV. "You guys have to see how active my wife is. She's so dedicated, she even trains herself to the point of exhaustion in the middle of the night," I announced loudly, tapping the screen mirroring button on my smartphone. Instead of a daily step count, the massive 75-inch screen suddenly lit up with that damning 2 a.m. heart rate graph, complete with a glowing red GPS pin hovering directly over our guest's roof. The red marker on the digital map pulsed unmistakably right above their family home, and the massive number, 150 BPM, glared blindingly across the entire room. My mate's wife frowned in total confusion, desperately trying to compute why my wife was apparently doing sprints around their property at 2 a.m. But all her questions were instantly answered when the home theatre speakers blasted Mia's moaning voice and her lover's filthy jokes at maximum volume. Their vile, mocking conversation about how easily they were fooling the stupid pilot echoed deafeningly through our luxury living room. A dead, suffocating silence fell over the room, which was violently shattered a second later when my mate's wife burst into tears and chucked her full glass of red wine right into his face. The humiliated woman jumped up from the sofa, smashed her empty crystal glass against the wall in pure disgust, and ran sobbing out of our front door. My former tennis partner sat there with Shiraz dripping down his face, frantically gasping for air like a fish out of water, unable to find a single word to justify his absolute scumbag behavior. Mia was completely pinned to the back of her chair, her face draining to the color of fresh snow, her lips trembling in a silent, pathetic state of sheer panic. She instantly realized that her brilliant, Oscar-winning performance was officially over, and along with it, vanished the limitless credit cards and the luxury business class flights. With absolute chilling calmness, I slid the signed divorce papers right in front of a pale, shaking Mia and informed her that her luxurious free ride on my dime was permanently cancelled. "Your corporate cards have already been blocked, and your belongings are packed in suitcases waiting for you in the garage," I added in an ice-cold tone, looking her dead in the eye. I pointed the door out to my terrified former mate, strongly advising him to get the hell out of my house and follow his wife before I literally threw him down the front steps. They practically scrambled out of my home, burning with unbearable shame and public disgrace, leaving me completely alone with a long-awaited, crystal-clear feeling of total freedom. I poured myself another generous glass of wine, smiling at the thought that sometimes modern technology makes the absolute best lawyer in cases of betrayal. The smart gadgets I bought with genuine love ended up destroying her web of lies and saving me from a lifetime with a hypocritical predator. How would you handle a cheating spouse in my shoes? Would you have confronted them privately behind closed doors? Or would you have gone for a spectacular public takedown in front of everyone involved? I want to read your boldest thoughts and stories down in the comments below. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to our channel, because we've got plenty more shocking, satisfying, and true-to-life dramas coming your way.